Hello everyone, it is finally Friday and today's poem is by Emily Brontë. Brontë lived from 1818 to 1848. She was the fifth child in her family, and she and her sisters Charlotte, Maria, and Elizabeth studied at the Haworth Parsonage for education. However, sickness circulated around the school, so the girls returned home. Sadly, her sisters Maria and Elizabeth died because of typhoid fever and tuberculosis. Charlotte, Anne, and Emily continued their education at home with their brother Branwell, and in their free time they would write very complicated plays and stories that they would act out with their dad. Brontë worked as a housekeeper and a teacher. She and her sister Charlotte studied abroad in Brussels, and later, after they had returned home, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne published a book of poems called Poems by Currer, Ellis, and Acton Bell in 1846, under male pseudonyms because they didn't think female names would go over well in the publishing world. The book unfortunately did not do that well, but that didn't deter the sisters. Charlotte would go on to write Jane Eyre, Emily wrote Wuthering Heights, and Anne wrote Agnes Grey. Wuthering Heights didn't do as well as Jane Eyre, unfortunately, because in Jane Eyre we watch Jane process things with her morals and with her intellect and with her intelligence, and there's a lot of other things that go on in the book as well, but in Wuthering Heights, a lot of things are extremely passionate. It's almost like reading a soap opera, and people in the day didn't really like all that passion in the book. However, it is considered a classic now, just like Jane Eyre. Emily would then return home to take care of her brother Branwell, who unfortunately got himself addicted to alcohol and opium and would die of these addictions. At his funeral, Emily caught tuberculosis and 2 months later she died. She was kind of adamant in the last 2 months before her death. She sort of refused to receive any medical help, and she was bent on continuing her day-to-day life. She was a very headstrong woman. And that leads me to my next point. A lot of people don't actually know that much about her because there's so much drama in her works, but in her life she focused a lot on practicalities and realistic ways of thinking. Her sisters have been known to say that it would have been better for her to have been born a man because she was so independent and stoic and headstrong and had an adventurer's spirit. So I think it's funny that we don't actually know that much about her because she has so much contrast between herself and her work. Today's poem I'm going to be reading is Riches I Hold in Light Esteem. It's not her most well-known poem, but I liked it, so I will be reading more of Emily Bronte's poems. And if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Let's get to it. Riches I Hold in Light Esteem by Emily Brontë. Riches I hold in light esteem, and love I laugh to scorn, and lust of fame was but a dream that vanished with the morn. And if I pray, the only prayer that moves my lips for me is, leave the heart that now I bear, and give me liberty. Yes, as my swift days near their goal, 'tis all that I implore. Through life and death, a chainless soul with courage to endure. Thank you all so much for listening. Next week, I'll be reading some Charlotte Perkins Gilman, who you might know because she wrote The Yellow Wallpaper, and one of my own poems again. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.